the only thing limiting you is your ambition. If you aspire to be an employee, to work a 9-to-5 job, to live in a middle-class neighborhood, and that's your aspiration, you'll get what you aspire to. When I was looking at somebody had a world record that I wanted. They got 2 arms and 2 legs. They don't have anything I don't have. Hard work, consistency, the mindset is what's going to get you there. Like you said, your biggest obstacle is yourself.
You negotiate with yourself daily. And you have a constant, a narrative of negotiation of what are you willing to settle for. Today I get to chat with Dr. Shawn Baker. Shawn Baker is famous for doing a lot of gangster stuff in athletics. He's you've been a power lifter. You've done all sorts of athletic feats and won titles and championships and did a lot of amazing things that most people would never do in their life. And medical doctor, kept yourself in extraordinary shape, or it's not fair to say that, got yourself in extraordinary shape and then maintained that for decades. And we also have another thing in common besides a good work ethic, is we eat a lot of meat. Shawn's popularized a carnivore diet that he's well known for. You should check him out on Instagram. And what is your Instagram handle? They could take a look at any of your social media platforms.
Yeah, Instagram is Shawn Baker 1967. You spell Shawn SHAWN. I'm on Twitter at SBakerMD. I've got a YouTube channel. It says Shawn Baker MD. I think I'm on TikTok too, Shawn Baker MD. Are you on TikTok?
I'm on TikTok too.
Yeah, TikTok. It's kind of crazy.
Shawn, what are some of your motivations? You told me that you've been serious about lifting weights for like 40 years, and you've maintained that discipline and habit over time. Where was your early motivations that got you into that, or wrestling, or some of your early athletic feats?
Well, I mean, what I started out as someone who was not particularly strong, was relatively weak and skinny, and I wanted to overcome that as a kid, and then I got successful at that through a lot of years of hard work. And that sort of defined me at some point of being successful. And then from there, I catapulted into success in all kinds of different sports, winning world titles in three different completely different sports. I won a powerlifting world record, Highland Game world record, and then rowing, which is another kind of crazy thing. And so that's been some of the things that I've been able to do. But I mean, it's just, what's motivating me is an internal drive to continuously be better, to continually challenge myself, to continually get as much as I can get out of myself. Why not? Why be, like you say, why be mediocre when you've got so much more you can do?
That's where most people settle at. It's kind of the default. The default is even worse, and you got to make a moderate effort just to be mediocre.
Right.
And it's that never appealed to me. I grew up in much less than mediocre. I'd say there's American poverty, so it's not real. It's not third world poverty, but I grew up in real American poverty of maybe the 2 percentile or something of winning families in the country, and that was a strong motivator for me. Not always in a positive way, usually in a rather negative way. That I didn't have the sort of role models I would have liked to have, and I looked around and I thought, this is really shit. And I wasn't sure how to fix it because I didn't have somebody to really point me in the right direction. So I had to do a lot of guess and check. And I found the guess and check was really painful, that you waste a lot of time, you waste a lot of energy. When you're working hard on the wrong things, you make things worse. And then you got to try to find some guidance. So sometimes you're going backwards and kind of using a lot of willpower and energy to do that. And as an adult, I made it a point that I wanted to have the best mentors, the best teachers, the best people that I could be around that, kind of help me. I think those are the shortcuts. People talk about the shortcut to this or that on the internet. And that's what I found to be the closest thing to a shortcut is, I wanted to go to the best universities, have the best academic teachers, the best real world teachers, the best coaches, mentors, etc. And that sure helped me an awful lot in life, that after I earned that spot and successively, you earn the next spot, the next spot, the next spot. So, I don't know. It was never relatable. It was never a goal to me to be in the middle. I thought I certainly had some very negative thoughts about my childhood situation, and it was never a goal of mine to maybe when I was 7 or something. I'm like, why can't I just have like a normal family? And I'm embarrassed even as an adult to think about that. The last thing I'd want is a normal life today. But that was a catalyst for me that. gave me a lot more motivation than a lot of people seem to have to go do the next thing and the next thing. What were some of your motivations?
Well, I just want to comment on what you described, because you hear about this occasionally. People that start at a very low point, it requires so much inertia to just break free of that you just keep going. You're like, I've achieved this, I'm going to keep going. But one of the things you said that struck a chord with me is, as I look back on being able to set world records and win world championships, pretty much without exception, I always sought out a former world champion or some of the top of the field. And it is a shortcut. I mean, why reinvent the wheel? Why spend 10 years making errors that are completely unnecessary? I mean, there's always going to be some degree of skill, but I mean, at the beginning, you can avoid these huge mistakes and wastes of time, quite honestly. So that's an important part. But so remind me the question again, because
What were some of your motivations after you broke free from your version of inertia or the normality that could have been your life, that you chose to, you were a military man, you chose to become a surgeon, you're a world traveler, you broke a lot of records, championships, you didn't do normal people things. What were some of your motivations to do these rather exceptional things?
Some of it's just a lot of fun. I mean, it's fun being exceptional. You get just as much as you get sort of external adulation or external rewards, it's more internal, because you just feel better about yourself. You're like, hey, I can do just about anything. I don't have any limitations on what I think I can do. And what I'm able to at least take. Like for instance, I started jiu-jitsu like you did. My aspiration is to be a world champion, in my age group at some point, and I see no reason why I can't do that. And the reason for that is because I've done it so many other times on all these other sports. And so, I enjoy the struggle too. I mean, for me, it's just as fun to get in every day and know that I'm bettering myself on a daily basis. That to me is fun.
Any new project I've taken on, I'm selective on what I want to focus on, but anything that I focused on, I made sure I did an extraordinary job at it. And I have that habit or mental illness or whichever that might be.
Yeah, I agree with that. You think about it. I mean, you sort of know what you might be able to achieve, or at least have a reasonable chance. I'm not going to be a horse jockey. It's too big, neither of you. And neither of us are going to be horse jockeys and be
Seems
world
unlikely.
champion. Seems unlikely, so why pursue that? So there's things you might be able to be successful with. But yeah, I mean, it's selecting what you want to do, and then why not be as good as possible? Why, like I said, shoot for the stars. Maybe you attain the moon, but at least your target is very high.
I think both of us did a good job at hitting those targets, though. It's never been a good motivator to me to blow smoke up my own ass until, that whole shoot for the stars thing. I kind of had this mental model, and I'm very curious how your mental models work on this, because you get the results, and it doesn't matter if people get results in different ways, but as long as you get the damn results at the end. And for myself, I'd have goals in mind. Like when I was still, I'm a high school dropout, so I couldn't even go to a university after high school. I had to go to local community college, and while I was there, I looked around and I thought to myself, well, this is. You have a little smugness where, I had a high IQ, I catch on to things quickly, and I had a little smugness that you look around and be like, well, I'm a lot smarter than these people, and maybe I shouldn't have to be here. And then I'd have to have a different talk with myself and say, well, hey, dumbass, if you're so smart, you should have no problem getting straight A's. If you're so much smarter than anybody here, then you should just have straight A's. You should be able to easily outperform everyone here. And I graduated with like a 3.83. I had a cumulative from my associate's degree and bachelor's degree cumulative at 3.83. So, I got 5 A's and a B, but I was also building a business and doing some other things in my life and supporting myself that nobody else was going to do that for me, And then, and so that helped me quite a lot over different processes or different situations I found myself in. It's like, well, if you want to do better, then you're going to have to, work harder and work smarter and find better mentors and better teachers and look for opportunities perpetually and do more than other people would be willing to do and ask for more responsibility and so on and so on. And, that got me a lot of raises and a lot of promotions and a lot of other advantages over time in life because you earned your spot, So some people don't want to, there's an ethos at Walmart that Well, if they paid me more, I'd work harder. Well, it has to be the other way. You had to engage in champion type behaviors for a period of time before you become a champion at something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's interesting because most of the people watching this live in a place where the only thing limiting you is your ambition. If you aspire to be an employee, to work a 9-to-5 job, to live in a middle class neighborhood, and that's your aspiration, you'll get what you aspire to. But there's the only thing that separates. When I was looking at somebody had a world record that I wanted. They got 2 arms and 2 legs. They don't have anything I don't have. And hard work, consistency, the mindset is what's going to get you there. And it really is. It's just like you said. Your limitations, your biggest obstacle is yourself.
Yeah, I really believe that as well. That a lot of people ask me for help negotiating various things in their business life, or get a raise, a promotion, a divorce, all sorts of things. People ask me my advice about negotiations. Something I've become rather well known for, and you negotiate with yourself daily, and you have a constant a narrative of negotiation of what are you willing to settle for, or what price are you willing to pay to. What are you willing to say no to say yes to the things that you want most? That's a way that I've thought about it many times. What are the things I'm going to have to say no to say yes to the things that I want most? And, you be resigned to pay that price at some time, or just settle for less. Or just settle for less than you could have been, less than your true potential. And that's sad. A lot of people do that. I'd say the majority of people, there are plenty of people that I looked up to as a kid that I wasn't jealous in a way that I was angry with them or something, but I was envious that, thought, man, if I had a better situation, that would sure be helpful right now, And a lot of those people really blundered that. They really messed up opportunities that I sure wish I had some of those opportunities. And I suppose if I had them, I might not have been as motivated to keep going as the other side of that coin. But a lot of people, you got great opportunities if you're in a first world country. I think that if you're in a first world country, that being a millionaire is a lifestyle choice, that a person could choose. You could choose to make at least $1 million if you're in a first world country, that especially if you're young. A person that's a lifestyle choice. And having a normal income, there's studies out there. You like numbers and data. There's a lot of studies out there that it's like 80% of people, almost 81%, I'm rounding down, don't have $5,000 in savings in America. America's 4.6% of the world's population, 26% of the world's economy, is by far the wealthiest country in the world, and over 80% of people don't have $5,000 in savings.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see a lot of folks that immigrate to the United States. Mm-hmm. They come in and they're wildly successful because they are just to make a fraction of what we make at home. They have to work like crazy, and they come here with nothing, and they end up extremely wealthy.
Yeah.
And it's I think one of the problems you have is if you're born into relative comfort, there's no motivation. I think that's part of some of the problem we have in society now. People have gotten too comfortable. They're willing to accept a small amount of comfort. Like I said, they don't have to make any significant sacrifices, and they can live in relative comfort. But they totally limit their potential by doing that.
A median income in America, that's the number in the middle for folks that don't understand statistics well, which I'm not making fun of you, but a lot of people confuse an average for a median. So average gets queued up higher because some people gave a shit and they created significant wealth. But a median income for an individual is about $42,000 in the U.S. And for $42,000, the average living expense for a person is about 38 and change, almost 39,000. So if you fall into that's a 50th percentile. That's that's the median. Is the half of people are making more than that, and half or less. What can you buy with your $3,000 a year, over your normal living expenses? the average car is 11 and a half years old. The average person has a car that's 11 and a half years old. And that's okay. Like if that's what your goals are, if it's okay to you to be an adult with a 12-year-old car, and you'd have a hard time making payments on a newer one, like even a cheap one, and with inflation, car prices have gone up a lot. So, I did some research on this recently, so some of these numbers are fresh in my mind, but like a Toyota Prius is like 39 grand. So, if you're only making 40 something, 42,000 a year, it's hard to buy a Toyota.
Yeah, sure.
It's hard to buy a Toyota. It's unattainable to buy a luxury vehicle for those people. That's just a car. And, then some people might think, well, the numbers, Derek, I don't have median income. I went to college graduate. Well, college graduate is a bachelor's degree gets $55,000. Average master's degree, $70,000. And, you have to have, even higher level professionals, not a normal, doctorate level or high level professional, but like higher level professionals, I think that, the average attorney makes 70 some grand, but the 90th percentile make about 150. Anesthesiologist about 140 or 240,000. So that's about the highest paid professional. And some of these things, I'm sure, from your own experience. But even if you make, say that 150 grand, so then you pay taxes on that, and then you go back to those other household expenses. And if you lived like a 50th percentile person, after taxes, maybe you could save $5 grand a month or something. And it's hard to get ahead. The point that I mean to make is, if you're engaging in behaviors that normal people do, if you're going to go to a university, I spent 9 years in university. You spent longer, and then your residency included. That's fine. And I at the time that I went to school, I feel like I learned a lot and it was very valuable. I don't think you can even get that same education today. That the schools have changed a lot, and I don't need to do a deep dive on that. But the schools aren't what they used to be. And I don't think you can get the same type of objective information that I got when I went there. But if you engage in these, normal behaviors, or even, upper middle class type behaviors, you're going to end up with a normal life. And if you want to have an exceptional life, you're going to have to do some things that they're going to look peculiar to normal people. I'm sure there must have been some social pressure moments somewhere in your life that when you set a goal in your mind that you want to be the best at something, it's not very relatable to people that are okay being average or median, yeah?
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I'm just thinking, like a lot of people say it must be nice to be able to eat steak every day, right? I'm like, well, yeah, work for it. You'll be able to do that. I mean, you think about it, not being able to drive a Prius, but not even able to feed yourself adequately, So you're relying on just the cheapest of the cheap junk food, and it ruins your health. And so, but yeah, I mean, I've made many sacrifices socially so I could accomplish goals, whether it's certainly athletic goals. You're not staying out partying all the time. You're not just eating garbage all the time. You're skipping out on some social events that other people might want you to do, and instead you're training and you're working and just getting through a surgical residency. I mean, that's 5 years of, that's like they call it the lost years, because you don't know what happened in politics. None of that stuff. You don't have time. You barely have time to sleep. So yeah, there's definitely been some sacrifices over the years.
Residency for other medical professionals, they'll find that quite relatable. Is like, I've never gone through that. It's not my area, but my friends who have, they more or less say it's like a torturous type period. It's basically a multi-year hazing period where, more senior doctors torment you for a number of years, and then they treat you with some bit of respect after a lot of torment and abuse.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, especially in the surgical stuff, especially. So I went through and did orthopedics, right? Orthopedics is one of the highest paid professions in medicine, by the way. But when I went through, I was 6'5", 280 pounds, and I acted like just a little unhinged, just enough to know that they might die if they mess with me too hard. So that was a good strategy. But I mean, the reason I was able to do that is because I'd spent time putting in the work to get stronger and bigger, so that I just had that advantage, so that these people that would normally, and we had people that were literally abused. I mean, there's no other way to sort of go around that. They were literally being abused part of their residency. But yeah, it was no sleep, just absolute verbal abuse, sometimes even physical abuse. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So then you're in your early 30s with a lot of debt.
Right.
Or a normal doctor, you might
Right.
have different circumstances with your military training. I'm really not certain, but a normal doctor, even if a surgeon, to be a surgeon, you had to be 2 standard deviations above a normal IQ. You have to have an exceptional work ethic, willing to be abused in various ways, which I don't mean to use the word lightly, but it is a borderline abuse, and and then when you're a third of a century old, then you can start making some money. Is that a fair representation?
That's pretty fair. Yeah, that's definitely pretty fair. Yeah.
And then somebody will say, you got lucky.
Right.
You got lucky. You got lucky. Well, I got luckier when I worked hard and created my own luck. I imagine you did too.
Yeah, I mean, I the debt I had accumulated, I moonlighted every weekend to get that off right away. Within a year, I paid off my debt. So
I had student loans at undergrad. When I went to grad school, I just paid for it in real time, and I was a business guy, so I was able to do that. But some people aren't. But the point I'd make to you is it's a lifestyle choice that you could, academic education is great, or at least historically it was, in my opinion. And but there's limitations to that. You're still going to have to do something unique with if you have one of those fancy degrees. That's great if you do, but you're still going to have to do something rather unique, or you're going to end up with normal income for your level of education. And I was an entrepreneur since age 7, and I was doing these were child type things, as rake the leaves and shovel the snow and cut the grass and walk the dogs and wash your neighbor's car and various little odd jobs and little peasant boy jobs. I wasn't shining shoes, but if you could imagine the little shoe shine boy in a different life, that would have been me too. And I had that in my head forever, that what else could I do to make things a little bit better, and what else could I do, and that really paid off over time. And I think for somebody watching this, if somebody's interested in, you're already doing well, you could do even better. You're interested in what it takes to build that kind of life. You're gonna have to say no to a lot of things. You're gonna have to say no to a lot of normal people things if you want to have exceptional people outcomes. You can't engage in average behaviors and expect to have exceptional outcomes. So just be mindful about that, and I would say pay that price proactively. And it's not a bad thing. You're paying a cover charge to a better life. You're making an investment in a better future. You're making an investment into to have better social resources, better intellectual resources, better financial resources that gives you the freedom to spend your time and with the type of people that you'd like to spend time with, to be accepted and respected by other respectable people, to have an abundance of financial resources, to be able to do the things that you want in life. So it's peculiar to me that somebody doesn't see that, or they don't make that connection of that probably the best time to do that would be earlier. The earlier a person does that in life, the greater return of compounding those gains one would make over time.
Yeah, I think it was something you made in our earlier discussion today. I mean, talking about it's not money, it's freedom. And it really is. I mean, that's, I get to do what I want to do. I don't have somebody telling me what I have to do all the time. And I think most people appreciate that more than the material wealth things, which are great, but having the freedom to say, I don't want to do that, or I want to do that, and being able to do that.
Imagine, I quit my last job when I was 19, and I'm 43 at the moment, say essentially a couple of days I'm 43. And, imagine in the modern world having being at the whims of an HR department, or, whatever policies they set, or whatever future policies that they might set that are, might not be congruent with your values. Imagine having to abide by some of these things that, or you lose your livelihood. You can't pay your rent. You can't pay for your Prius. It's, that's not a position that I would want to be in. That seems like a very vulnerable position. And, especially for a younger person, start wherever you are. That's another great topic, by the way, start wherever you are. But especially for a younger person here, you gotta see that connection early, that you're gonna have to do some entrepreneurial things that your family might find peculiar, your current friends might not find relatable, You have to look for opportunities of how could you contribute at a higher level, so you're going to be rewarded at a higher level, and you're going to have a lot more independence and a lot more freedom in your life. And if you don't plan for that early, you're probably not going to get it. And I think two thoughts that I had while mentioning that a lot of people ask me, well, Derek, where do I start? Where do I start, Derek? How much money do I need to start? So, start exactly where you're at. Where the hell else would you start? And maybe you'd have a perspective of that from your context of life. That I know a lot of people come to you for advice about diet or obviously medical advice. Where else could someone possibly start except where they're at right now?
Absolutely, yeah. That makes total. I mean, that is, and some people are procrastinating. I would wait till this life event happens. Wait till I'm married. Wait till I have my kid. Wait till I have this job. Wait till I get my degree. If you have that mindset, you'll always find a wait till. There's never a perfect time. So I mean, the perfect time is yesterday, and if that's not good, then today is the next best time for sure. Yeah. And I think the thing you said about, there's a small percentage of people that will actually do this, right? That are going to succeed and be exceptional. But the number, as the world gets bigger, there's more and more opportunity for it. Mm-hmm. But only a small percentage will ever step up and take it. So it's getting probably easier as things get bigger and bigger in the world.
You and I were chatting early today about sort of some evolutionary psychology type factors or environmental factors that our ancestors would have had, and you don't have to spend much time watching any animal documentary or any credible real animal documentary that like the wilderness out there can be a rough place. If you're a bear or a big scary cat or whatever, that you got to go fight another bear. You got to go fight another lion or something, and you might not live long. The opportunities that we have today, that if you were born in a first world country, wherever the hell you were born, deal with it, make the best of it. But if you're born in a first world country, I just feel like there's no excuse. I personally feel, and I'm not saying anybody else should believe this, I personally feel like it's a disrespect to my ancestors to not take advantage of the myriad of opportunities available. That food is so abundant. There's an obesity crisis all around the damn country. And in other countries, America exports their obesity crisis, and I'm sure you know more about that than I do, except for me being 20 pounds too fat myself. You got so many opportunities today that your ancestors couldn't have dreamed of. They were trying to keep their kids safe from the scary cat, trying to keep their girls safe from the bear. And you have so much abundance of opportunity today that people flounder around and don't take that. And then they make up bizarre excuses or bizarre perceptions or interpretations of how the world is, that it's somehow bad or unfair, when there's never been a better time. There's never been a place of more opportunity.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the people that elect, and it's a choice, to not take advantage and not take those opportunities, that just provides, you become prey to the predators. And the predators are one, I don't want to make it an adversarial way, but it's easier to be successful when there's more and more people that are unwilling to do it.
To your point there, I think there are plenty of people that are happy to take advantage of someone when someone has that victim mentality, and they're like, I can't do it because of blah, blah, blah. I can't do it because of what your ancestors had way tougher situations, and they did pretty good, or you wouldn't be here. It's within your DNA. It's within you to do better. Your ancestors did good, or you wouldn't be here. So you have, a person that has that sort of mentality today. Imagine that you have a lineage, a heritage of people that came before them, that their fathers and grandfathers and so on and so on and so on and so on, back to whatever the hell you evolved from Homo sapiens are around something like 300,000 years is my understanding. Mammals are around, something 350, 400 million years, and whatever the hell came before that. So from a amoeba or something in a dinosaur turd, a billion years later, here you are, and there's a billion years of surviving and thriving at certain circumstances, and you show up in this beautiful place called Earth today and say, I can't do it. It's unfair. The system's rigged against you. No, you're really just negotiating against yourself, and there'll be somebody out there, one of those predators. They might not have visible fangs, but they're more vicious and more predatory in some ways. That there'll be somebody out there that finds a person like that and fills their brain full of nonsense that, oh, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's because of this or that. Like, your ancestors survived and or thrived for 1 billion years of evolution for you to be here. Maybe longer, who knows? I don't know. It's preposterous to me when an adult person has an infantile thought like that like, well, I can't do it, or, well, Shawn, it's easy for you to say you're a surgeon, or Shawn, it's easy for you to say you've been a great athlete. Derek, it's easy for you to say you're rich now. But as if you and I were born into those circumstances.
We all started out as a single cell. We all started out as a single cell, and we grew and grew and grew, and we started out as helpless babies. And I mean, you've got so much opportunity, and you're right. I mean, life even 100 years ago was dramatically more difficult than it is today. Back then, you spent much of your time just trying to feed yourself.
Yeah.
And you didn't have this discretionary time to think about entrepreneurial things or, all these different, even the leisure things that we take pleasure in. I mean, just I look at the fact that I get to exercise as a privilege. I mean, that's just something that, you look at some third world kid, they're not thinking about exercise. They're thinking about, shit, am I going to eat today? And so you've got all these built-in advantages, and the fact that you're content just to sit there and eat and maybe have a roof over your head, that's so far beneath what you should be able to achieve.
I've made myself so useful in the world that I now have the luxury of having multiple world champions come to me, fly from around the world to come to me to punch me and choke me. That's a true luxury. If you think about it, it sounds a little ridiculous, but if you think about it, what a great luxury. You've made yourself so useful and provided enough utility that world champions at various endeavors come from around the world to come train with you, and that is a great luxury.
It is.
I feel fantastic about that. But I would say there's a lot of people out there. A lot of you started off with better circumstances than I had. I suspect many of you started off with better circumstances than Shawn had. And these things are a lifestyle choice. It's a lifestyle choice. It's nobody else's fault that I'm 20 pounds too chubby. That's my fault. That was a lifestyle choice because I was focused on other things. And for those of you that followed me for a bit, you know that I was even fatter recently. I've already lost over 20 pounds, and I've already taken those steps to. I never blamed anybody else for that ever. It's like, well, hey man, I was busy making money. I was busy collecting degrees. I was busy doing a lot of other things, and I didn't make that a priority. So as soon as I made that a priority, then results started to happen. And it's not my top priority. It's my fourth priority, but it's something I'm working on a little bit in the background, and then the results happen. And maybe one more thought that's be useful for you to share your perspective of. And like, there's a subset of people there that if they work real hard for a couple hours at something, they want to be a world champion already, or they want to be extraordinarily successful because, hey man, they worked really hard for the last 90 minutes. And that's not been my experience. I've been around a lot of world champions, and I suspect you have as well. And that tends to be a concerted effort for maybe a decade or longer to start having notable outcomes that other winners in the world would say, yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, whenever I get into a new sport and I have aspirations of being, world class, I know it's a 5-year commitment minimum. I mean, it's going to take that time just to understand the basics. Obviously the shortcuts by having the experts with you that really accelerates the process. But there's no one that's born a world champion. I mean, they have to earn it, and it is definitely a time period. It's some people talk about the 10,000 hour rule. Whether or not that's true or not, you're definitely going to have a significant commitment. And as I think Paulie earlier we talked about, it's almost, some people would consider it a form of mental illness, that you're so obsessed or determined, and you're not like the average person. I think most world champions, if you talk to them, they're not like normal people. They really are. And whether that's good or bad is up to what you desire to achieve.
My main MMA coach is a guy named Jake Shields. And, Jake is a 5-time world champion. Some of the guys that are the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world would say he's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world, And I asked him at one time in his career, he didn't lose a fight for like 7 years. He had a 15 fight win streak, which, that's not, boxing's different. In MMA, there's it's a different system in the background. There's a lot of guys in boxing that they fight people that are less talented intentionally to create those kind of records. That's hard to do in MMA. It's like you fight the top contenders, And I asked him what his life was like, during that period where he won 15 fights in a row. And there's, finally that was interrupted where he went 5 rounds with George St. Pierre at the UFC and, won 2 rounds and lost 3 rounds. So he said, one of the first things he said, which nobody talks like this, I thought except me. One of the first things he said is, I said, what are some of the things that you had to say no to say yes to that? And what was your lifestyle like? He said, well, you're not going to be there for your girl's birthday. You're not going to show up for, Christmas. You're not going to show up for these holidays. You're not going to do these middle-class rituals, And he said, if you win a fight on Saturday, he might fly home on Sunday, and Monday he's back in the gym. And that's how he spent that time. And, and that's why he was a 5-time world champion in his sport. That's why he's retired now, but he's my age. But, it's why he's so well respected in that industry that he had that type of work ethic. And everybody, that was on display for everyone in his industry. They'd see that. And he's not a guy that you wanted to fight because you knew he didn't win something and then take a month off and go party and then come back and get back into the rhythm. He just never lost the rhythm. He just kept the rhythm, So those are tough competitors. And, it's my impression that you're one of those people in your own realm that if you built that momentum and you got the rhythm, you're not the type of guy, I imagine, that takes a month-long vacation and chills out too much.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you talk about, you have this ultimate dream of winning whatever, achieving some goal, and then you achieve it, and you're like, I need more. It wasn't what I thought it would be. Why would I quit at this point? I mean, I still got a lot more to attain, and I mean, I'm the same way. I go to a competition, win the competition, and I'm literally the next day. If I can physically move, I'm training again. I'm more planning how to improve myself for the next performance. So yeah, that's a mentality you have to have. It's constant improvement. It's non-negotiable.
You got your undergrad degree believes in biology, yeah? So you know more about that than I do. It's my understanding that kind of one of the basic tenets of biology is that, like life requires movement, that there has to be some movement or activity for something to be alive. And, this having a philosophy of lethargy of, I'm just sit on my ass and not do anything and expect profound results, it seems contradictory to that basic tenet of biology. Is that a fair way to look at that?
Yeah, you have to have constant motion, constant growth, or you're basically defined as dead.
Something that keeps me as cheery as I am. I'm always a little grumpy and a little cheery at the same time. My moods are very stable, but I'm always a little grumpy and a little cheery at the same time. But something that I think has sincerely helped me in life, that that I've been happy to work long hours and sincerely happy, not resentful of it. Be willing to work more than other people. Be willing to work at a higher level than other people. Ask myself, what could I do better? What else could I do? What else could I do? I never minded having some short-term discomfort. And I think there's an old quote maybe from Nietzsche that I'm paraphrasing, but it's along the lines that it's not suffering that a man hates, it's suffering for no reason. A guy is happy to suffer for a good cause. If he feels he's being well rewarded later, he's happy enough to suffer for a good cause, but you hate to suffer for no reason. And I kind of think about that mentorship equation that way again, that I felt that the most frustrated times of my life is when I was working hard, but I didn't know if I was doing the right things. And at times where I had a higher level of certainty that there might have been a lot of uncertainty on the path or a lot of bumps or contortions that one might have to go through, but I knew I was moving in the right direction, and I knew that I was building the right sort of, social resources, intellectual resources, character or tenacity that, well, whatever the hell happens, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to get past the next hurdle and the next hurdle. And I didn't try to go around the hurdles per se or stop there and, what do I do now? It's not an easy path. What do I do now? I just like, well, all right. I kind of accepted some of those tough things. And maybe a recent example is both of us have been playing with jiu-jitsu for half a year or so, and relatively early on. But I'm deep enough into that. I feel really calm getting choked now. That it's a peculiar thing to talk about with some people, but I think you'd understand
Sure.
this. That I think to myself like, well, I'm really being and you can't talk and you're really being choked, like literally strangled. I think well, can I breathe just a little bit? I can breathe just a little bit. Can I breathe just a little bit sporadically? Oh, that means his arm's getting weak. It means his arm's giving out and he's not going to be able to continue this pressure because there's that little sporadic, and get a little breath in, every second or two, and get a little air. And that gives you hope that like, oh, he's not going to be able to keep this amount of pressure. And then you start thinking, well, if his arm's getting weak, how could I put myself in a better position right now? And if that didn't work, what else would I do? And you start taking action, And I think that being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, or being at least psychologically stable, not panicking in difficult situations, that helped me make a lot of money in financial markets. They helped me solve a lot of problems for clients and friends and so on. And you strike me as a person that's also that way, that you don't mind being uncomfortable, or you're not a guy that would panic in tough situations, I imagine. So do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, well, the old saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, right? And that jiu-jitsu analogy is very, very apropos for that, because, as you said, you're getting strangled, and, it's not going to kill you, but it's going to make you better able to deal with that and deal with other tough things. And I think there's there are some pain points which are not helpful, and you have to be able to discern what's going to make you better and what's actually truly harming you. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff that's going to make you better is really, really uncomfortable. And it takes some level of wisdom and experience to say, this is something, though, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it sucks, I'm going to come out better from this. And being able to discern that from, this is just frankly bad for me, it's going to serve no purpose. So I think you have to have the ability to discern between those two things. But I mean, like I said, jiu-jitsu, exercise, doing things that are going to improve you intellectually, financially, spiritually, whatever. Those things are almost generally going to pay off. Getting into the pain that's associated with bad relationships or drugs or alcohol or any of these things. These things are, we got to minimize those things and focus on the things, the difficult, challenging, sometimes painful things that are going to make us better when we get out the other side, for sure.
I feel like I heard this in a movie 30 years ago or something, but is in a military type context. I heard a saying along the lines of, are you injured or are you hurt? And that's something that came to mind when you were saying what you were saying just a moment ago, that sometimes if I've been training a lot, you put in 10 hours and 48 hours time, and my body's sore. And, you get bruises, some are pretty, significant bruises or scratches or things like that. And I'm like, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, everything hurts a little. And then I just laugh at myself and I'm like, all right, do you have an actual injury that, you're not able to do a part of your body? Is your arm broken? Do you have some, severed tendons or ligaments that would make you incapable of doing the thing? Like, no, you just got a couple bruises. You're just a little physically uncomfortable. All right, go do the thing, And I thought that way in a lot of areas, not just in physical pain, but, I thought that way in a lot of areas of life. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. And that's one thing that is worth chatting about, is that, you don't have to feel like it every moment to get things done. There's a lot of times that, I didn't feel like doing what I'm supposed to do today. But I remind myself, the success gods don't care what I feel like. They don't reward me for my feelings. The success gods are going to reward you based on your behavior. So despite whatever you might feel like, you have the tenacity to go engage in the behavior that would lead to a better future at a time that most people just wouldn't. That's a fantastic opportunity to separate yourself from the others, that there's layers and layers where other people would have given up and do. And the bar is low. 90% of people, whatever it is you choose to do, 90% of people aren't even competing with you. They're not in the game at all. Maybe more.
Yeah, I mean, feelings, they're transient. I don't care what you feel like now. Go do the thing, and what do you feel like later? Like I said, you can use a workout analogy. many days I've not felt like training, and I go and do it anyway. And when I'm done, I'm like, I'm glad I did it. It's if we based on everything on what we feel like, we're gonna sort of tend towards inertia, because it feels pretty good sitting on a couch and not doing anything, right? But that doesn't get you anywhere. You've got to accept a little bit of discomfort and inertial startup, friction to get moving.
What are a couple of bullet points you'd share for somebody out there that they know they're not living to their true potential? They're probably, the type of people that come work with me is somebody, they're already doing good, they're already good at something, but they know they could do a hell of a lot better. And if they were put in a slightly different environment, if they engaged in a couple of slightly different behaviors, they start to do better. And if they got just to that part, pretty soon you build a momentum around that, and then you're doing a hell of a lot better because you've habituated yourself to you're engaging in the habits of a winner. What would you say for that person that has that inertia right now? What's the first step to getting away from the mediocre habits that would lead to average outcomes and start building that habit of winning?
I think mentally. So do something hard. Do something hard every day. Make sure you do, like I said, I use this analogy, taking a cold shower. Get in there, put the tap on cold, stand there, suck it up for 10 seconds. You've done something hard. Things get easier after that. And the more you get used to overcoming challenges, you just make it, what's going to be challenging, what's going to be tough for me to do today, and do it. Just don't even think about it. Just act, do it, get it done. And then 6 months later, you're going to be a very different person, both physically and mentally.
Looking for new opportunities like that. What else could I do? What else could I do? I think a lot of young people love those challenges, but there's not a culture to shake off that inertia or shake off that lethargy to go take that next step. You're going to deal with a little social pressure to do that. If you want to have exceptional outcomes, you're going to have to engage in behaviors that normal people can't or won't. So if you habituate yourself to those behaviors, whatever your goal is, if it's more in the terms of physical fitness goals or financial goals, you can't do what normal people do and expect exceptional outcomes. So I think that's wise. So what you said of get comfortable being uncomfortable, or make it a habit of putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, and I think that becomes a point of pride. Don't do it in ways that are going to harm your future. Do it in ways that are going to shake you up and wake you up to be more engaged in creating a more prosperous future. So don't do things that are going to harm you. Do things that are those are investments in a brighter future. Things that will shake you out of that normalcy or mediocrity and onto to better ways and brighter days. Where can they find out more information about you? And do you want to talk about entrepreneurship a little bit? What are some things that you're working on, or your business or your endeavors that you're excited about that somebody might be able to contribute to here?
Yeah. So as we mentioned, my background is in orthopedic surgery. I spent 2 decades as a sort of typical physician. Thought I was doing pretty well. It's a good life. It's comfortable. Had a mindset shift on that about how we should take care of people. I think the healthcare system has some tremendous successes, but we have a lot of failings, particularly when it comes to chronic disease. So I got out of that. I partnered with an entrepreneur out of Silicon Valley. We founded a company called Rivero, and we are in the process of growing this into a juggernaut healthcare industry company, and that's something I'm totally uncomfortable with. It was not in my comfort zone, but I had a passion for that. This is like when I thought about why did I want to become a physician, it wasn't to just perpetuate people in disease and just put Band-Aids on them. The more I sort of realized that I didn't have to do that, and I had to go outside the system. It was totally, it was something that I was like, I could have said, well, the system is this way and there's nothing I can do about it, or screw it, I'm going to make my own system. And that's what we're in the process of doing. And so that's kind of my passion when it comes to entrepreneurship and, business type stuff. I still have the other stuff, the other mental illness of the athletics and the getting strangled by a strange, sweaty, big, heavy man, But yeah, that's what I've been up to here recently.
There's a lot of overlap in doing those tough things. It sure helps a lot with entrepreneurship. And you already built a lot of the success habits that I know you're going to do very well in this area as well. And you're already well on your way. You've got some good funding and some good people around you, and you're already well on your way. But what are some lessons you learned over time that, as a doctor who's lived a unique lifestyle, that did a lot of things, accomplished a lot of things that most people, they would have given up long ago? What are some unique things that you learned about, health or fitness that might be applicable to others based on your knowledge and experience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing people need to understand that there is no one, your doctor has minimal invested interest in your particular health. I mean, you pay them for that, but they are a small, tiny fraction of what that's about. So you have to be your own advocate. You have to critically think about what's important to you, because what's important to you is not going to be important to the healthcare system and your physician. The healthcare system, it's business oriented. There's a lot of it is made for financial reasons, not necessarily for health reasons. I think we have to start looking outside of the typical healthcare system. Nutrition plays a huge role. Sleep plays a huge role. Exercise plays a huge role. These things should be priority. These things are going to help. These are foundational things that are going to help you to be successful in whatever you choose to do, whether it's entrepreneurship or trying to be accumulating wealth or accumulating freedom. And this is part of it. It's very difficult to be free if you don't have the basic foundations of health in place. Maybe you can do it a little bit for a period of time, but it'll eventually catch up to you. And so if you're younger, start thinking about it now. Don't wait till you're 50 or 60 and you've already sacrificed so much, and you've kind of, what you don't want to do is take Derek's advice and become financially successful and independent, and then spend the last 30 years of your life going from doctor to doctor or limiting what you can do, limiting what you can see. It's a big, beautiful world out there. There's a lot to experience, but it's not very fun when you're in pain or have some sort of disease you're dealing with.
Yeah, one of the things that I procrastinated too long is diet. I had a good exercise regime for a long time. I mentioned that to you earlier, that I was lifting weights for, 8 years, steady lifting weights. And for about 6.5 of those years, I was going to the gym, 4 days a week, at least. Sometimes I'd go 5, but I made that a rule in my head that, you got to fly to Australia today, like 30 hours of flight time. Okay, you're going to go to the gym, take a shower, have your 30-hour journey. And when you land there, you get to go to the gym again before you take a nap or lay down. Take a nap on the jet and go do it again. Or Singapore, same type of thing, So I really had good habits around that. And then the world went insane for a period, and they closed the gyms. Imagine that, is a health thing, whole other conversation perhaps, but that made no sense to me, that we'd close the gyms for your health. We're going to close the gyms. That made no sense to me. And that really threw me out of my rhythm. And I mentioned this to you, and I don't mind sharing it publicly, that there were so many fantastic financial opportunities that I was, I made a good amount of money in the last recession in 08, 09. And, the number one reason I went to graduate school is that, I understood business well, and I never wanted another job, but I went to that specific school because I wanted to learn more of the, like hardcore finance, accounting, economics, like the little gritty nerd details that nobody knows, So I went to the specific school I did to really prepare myself to better understand financial markets, to understand the economy as a whole in much more precise detail. So I could, when there's a good distressed investing environment, I could multiply my net worth again. And that's exactly what I did. And I really obsessively thought about that because I had been preparing for it for more than a decade. So my diet and exercise, I couldn't exercise, so I would have continued my exercise. But since I couldn't exercise, that fucked up my diet pretty bad too. And, that threw me out of whack there. So, you've been around with me, and Shawn was here earlier. We were doing some boxing training with Paulie Malignaggi for a couple hours earlier. And, you see I built an ecosystem. I spent a couple $1 million, which, sounds ridiculous to some people, but I spent a couple $1 million on space and equipment to have, my own weight training facilities, my own cardio equipment, world champion trainers to come work with me. So it's something that I've taken seriously that, a hater on the internet will criticize, well, Derek, you're fat. You talk about discipline all the time. Derek, you're fat. When I was extraordinarily disciplined in other areas of my life, and now I'm making significant progress. I've set myself up for success to make significant progress here as well. So I'm taking those steps, but you can't do everything at once. That's where my head is. I can't do everything at once. If I try to do 10 things at the same time, I'd fail at all 10 of them.
Well, it's interesting because you're about to turn 43, and that's about the age where I made a shift. And I was champion athlete, working hard, but I even in my early 40s, I was about 40, 50 pounds heavier than I was now. I mean, I was still strong and training and winning world championships, but I wasn't as healthy as I am now. Mm-hmm. So I made that decision about the same age. And the other thing is, you have the resources to build out a multi-million-dollar situation where you have all the fitness. But even if you don't have the resources that you have yet, you can carve out, a 5x5 square foot of property on your property. Get a kettlebell or something. I mean, there's you can do that very, even if you're doing just body weight stuff, you can make that happen. So. The COVID pandemic has negatively impacted many, many more people than have died from it or had injuries from other things. The fact that most Americans gained all this weight, many of them, by the way, will never, ever, ever lose it. And that's a sad thing. And so, unfortunately, it takes almost, for many people, an extreme personality or amount of drive, like, you've got it in other areas. And so it's just a matter of making a little shift and saying, okay, now I'm going to focus on this. And then, hopefully you've got enough of the other stuff already built in that you can sort of carve out a fraction of your time to do that.
It's going to be a priority for me going forward that, it's something that I've thoughtfully created the infrastructure, created the physical infrastructure of equipment and space, created the social infrastructure to have the right people, created the financial infrastructure to have the freedom of time to not have to be working for a Prius or something. So I put all the things in alignment that it's hard not to win. When you create the right system. And something you said a moment ago that makes a lot of sense. There's people out there that are really fit that, they got a couple things in their garage or they got a couple things in a spare bedroom, minimal equipment. And there's no excuse. I put myself in a situation where there's not an excuse to not be successful in that area. I just have to show up and put in the time. So, and I've created that time now. So it's a priority for me going forward. I always enjoyed lifting weights. Another thing you said earlier that made a lot of sense, like when you show up to the gym, there's times you're like, I don't feel like doing it right now. You ever go through a good workout and then feel bad about it? You ever show up and do the thing and then feel bad later? Like, I never did. I always feel good.
In fact, I can remember times where I went in feeling I was going to have an awful training session, and they turned out to be some of the best training sessions of my life. It's just you don't know until you do it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Final thoughts for a young person here, or a person of any age that's doing well, wants to do better. What's the next step? What do they got to do right now?
Well, I think, if you've got somebody that don't reinvent the wheel, you don't necessarily have to do that. So if you got somebody like this that can, facilitate things for you, don't hesitate to utilize those resources. Don't squander the opportunities. You can. There's plenty of time later on in life where you can step off the gas. Don't kill yourself. Don't neglect your health, but at the same time, don't just coast.
If you're doing well, you're serious about doing better, you want help in finance, I'm happy to help you with that. If you want to do better in entrepreneurship, you want to get a raise, a promotion, a bonus check, find some additional income so you can learn to invest that later. It's the only way that you're going to have your financial freedom. That's the only way you're going to have freedom at all. So I'm happy to help you with that. If you want to learn more about a carnivore diet, that's what Dr. Baker is most famous for. Fantastic guy. I enjoyed getting to know you better. We have several mutual friends, and appreciate that you took the time to fly over here and spend a bit of time together. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thanks, Derek. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun getting to know you as well.
Poverty is a lifestyle choice. So is a millionaire. Choose wisely. I'll see you soon.
So I've just completed the Markets Mastery program, and What I've learned from this program has been invaluable. It's helped me tremendously already. Derek elaborates in depth, what it's like going through making stock picks during crazy volatile times, and stressing how your best stock purchases will happen during moments of extreme panic and negativity. People will think that you're stupid for buying that stock and probably laugh you out of the room. And personally, that's actually happened to me. And today, it's one of my best stocks that I've picked. Another concept Derek drilled into my head was the idea of investing versus speculation. You have to always be aware of which one you're actually doing. If you cannot quantify the reasons behind that pick, don't fool yourself. You're doing speculation and you'll get speculative results. And finally, another one of the really big lessons I've learned is how Derek stresses the benefit of a long-term mindset. Volatility, it is part of a healthy market, but you don't really know what's going to happen in the short term and you don't really care. But you can be confident that you're going to win more in the long term. It helps you stay focused and not be distracted by all the crazy fluctuations that inevitably happen in the market. Throughout the course, many major events will happen, and Derek does an excellent job of stressing what matters most as these events are happening and what's a distraction and doesn't really matter that much. Market mastery has helped me keep a cool head during the countless moments of volatility that have happened during these past few months. It helped me multiply my net worth. Controlling your emotions, it doesn't come from woo-woo techniques or affirmations, but rather it comes from having an in-depth understanding of the company, the sector, and the economy as a whole. So to anyone considering taking this program, if you're serious about building your wealth and having your money work for you, as well as avoiding losing a bunch of money from making bad or speculative decisions, Markets Mastery is a no-brainer.